my concept is life-work integration. And when you think about what's going on in Harrisburg, the regentrification, it's fantastic. But what triggered my interest here was the word they chose, thrive. So I went on, of course, I'm anal retentive, so I looked it up in Webster. I didn't like that, so I started to look at what the organizers said about it. And they had a very simple statement that stuck with me and resonated. First, they said, it's taken the time to celebrate what we've achieved. Awesome. But it's the second part that made it even more awesome, which was, and investing in the tomorrow we want to create. That's life to me. It is respect for the past, but responsibility to own your future. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't always feel this way, and that's the journey I'm going to take you through. But I will say this, I do believe, and I talk a lot about this, I do believe to thrive in the 21st century in your career and life for better well-being, you need integration. And when you think about integration, I've defined it at 3 levels: your family, your community, and your career. When I speak to my students at Villanova or when I write on my blog, I don't talk about balancing them. I talk about integrating them. Why should I settle for making very hard trade-offs when I can think about how do I bring them together? The problem is, that wasn't me. In my 20s and 30s, if I was just being honest with this chart and I popped it up, there'd be one puzzle piece. It would say career. I was a workaholic. There's no doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt about it. I'm not saying I'm proud of it, and I'm not saying I regret it. For that stage of my life, it was who I was. And there's a part of me that wants to help you guys appreciate, and I've spent the last 2 decades working on this. It's a big experiment for me. That's what life is. It's a big experiment, and I enjoy it. I hope you can tell. You know, I love the idea of smile. Of course, I'm Italian. All right, so I just love the idea of integration, and I started to think about, what does that mean to me? What was the journey I went on, and how did I get here? We're having a conversation, so I want it to be real. So I'm going to talk to you about 4 things. I'm going to talk to you about the experiences I had that made me who I was, and I'm going to talk about some of the experiences of where I'm headed. And it's hard to let go of your experiences. They shape you, they become your DNA. After I talk about the experiences, and I'm not going to bore you to death, I'm going to focus on a few that are meaningful, I'm then going to talk to you about disruption. Personal disruption, what I like to call my wake-up call. After I talk to you about my wake-up call, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about owning it. Not running away from it, owning it. Saying, hey, this is it. This is what I got. This is how I am. And then finally, I'm hoping to share with you an approach that I've taken to integrate my life and work. Experiences. They're awesome. That's what life's about. That's why you're here. That's why TED's about conversation. It's us each sharing our life story. Look at this. When was the last time you let that happen? It's probably been a long time. Now, my wife will tell you every night at dinner. No, but what's beautiful is the picture says 1,000 words. Experiences are sloppy. Doesn't mean they're bad. Some can be bad or sad and make you cry. Some can be happy and make you smile. But there's one thing about experiences that are universally true. They're opportunities to learn. Children, they embrace that every day. They don't judge experiences. They don't think, oh, is this going to be good? Is this going to be bad? Am I going to look silly? Do I look dirty? Where's the napkin? They could care less. They just dive in. They immerse themselves in experiences. That's why they're having a good time. We've put all this other emotion and stuff around experiences, and we've taken some of the joy out of it. I'm not Pollyanna. I don't believe every experience that you learn from is going to be the best thing that ever happened. In fact, when I think about the experiences that shaped my life, and over my 51 years, there are many, but there's 3 that stick with me that I'd like to share with you because it'll give you a perspective as to how in my 20s I was a workaholic and what triggered the event for me to shift. First is, I lost my mother when I was 11 years old. My brother, my uncle, and I found my mother dead of a massive heart attack on our kitchen floor. You can't make that a great experience. It's just hard. In fact, you know, from the neighborhood I grew up, we would say it sucks. It's just not something. But my father, who was my hero, helped me appreciate the moment. First, he made me appreciate what grieving was. I'd never seen my father cry before that day, ever. 11 years old. I mean, how many times you see your father cry in your life, let alone at 11? He sat me down on a stool and he said, I said, Dad, what are you crying for? He looked at me without hesitation. He said, Albert, you know David, right, your friend? I go, yeah. He goes, he's your best friend, right? I said, oh yeah, Dave's great. He goes, I just lost my best friend. And it cemented in my head, oh my God. And I was allowed to mourn for my mother, but he put it in a context an 11-year-old boy could appreciate and understand. And I was forever grateful. But what it triggered in my head wasn't negativity. I instantly said, oh my God, nothing's forever. I can't take anything for granted. And it shaped my behavior outside that meeting, outside that event. As a kid, people called me chipper. I was smiling every day. I was walking with a pep in my step. I still harbored some resentment for why my mom. But at the end of the day, I say to my kids every morning, good morning, I love you. I kiss my wife. Good morning, I love you. My wife and I don't get along every day. But at the end of the day, when it's time for bed, I love you. Everything's put aside. I don't harbor the resentment. So that shaped a positive attitude in my life, a very tough experience that I'm very regretful of and angry about. I was able to put into a moment where I said, no, this has taught me something. And then my second experience that was an inflection point for me was I lost my father as a senior in college. The mourning was easy. I'm older. I understand it. I appreciate it. What my father had blessed me with in terms of understanding it was great. But I felt differently about this one. Even though I had siblings, I felt like an orphan. I can remember that day like it was yesterday, looking in the mirror and saying to myself, I got to make this happen. I don't have someone to turn back to. Who am I looking at behind me? And it triggered in my head, whether you like it or not, it triggered, I got to go to work. I studied for my CPA. Before I graduated, passed it, went to Anderson, started working. And that's all I thought about was work. I missed Thanksgivings, plenty of them. Doing spreadsheets in an office, pointless, but I missed them. Missed birthdays. Hell, I even missed my own surprise party. How sad is that? But how funny is my family? They're Italian, I told you that, right? Full-blooded, no doubt, no, there's nothing going on. They taped it so they could show me it. So you can tell we don't take each other seriously, but it helped shape who I was. And it stays with me now. I don't regret it. I don't have animosity about it. It is who I am. You can see it in every step I take every day. The third experience was the one that changed me. Today, before I got up on the stage, my father-in-law texted me and said, hey, good luck. And I said, your daughter, she changed my life. I love you. I'll tell you how it goes after, or watch it live streaming. And the way she changed my life was, we had our first child in 1999, was my son. And as I said, I was a workaholic, so that meant I would get up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm not lying, that's not for the story. And I would be out of the house 4:15, 4:30, and on my way to work. And that means I wouldn't come home till 8, 9 o'clock at night on a good day. When I was walking out that morning, I did what I learned through my experiences. I went in to see my wife, who was feeding our son. I just leaned in and said, I love you, goodbye. Smile on my face, looked at her. She just looked up at me, beautiful blue eyes, all 5'1" of her, and said, he won't be young forever. Oh, she doesn't even remember it. She doesn't remember saying it to me. It changed my life. It was a punch. It stopped me in my tracks. That's what disruption does. It doesn't cause you to pause for a second. It jolts you. It says, wait, wake up, buddy. And it just started me to set into a deep-seated panic. Because what's a workaholic, an anal retentive workaholic want to do? Solution. How do I solve it? What am I going to do? Let's go. Let's change. Oh, great. Tomorrow I'm going to be different. And in my life, I was relatively successful at being a workaholic. I could make the argument that being there at Thanksgiving, coming home late, I got the promotion, I went along with it. A punch like that, I didn't know how to respond to. I didn't know what to do. I knew one thing, I had to change. And that had to come from within. My wife was the trigger mechanism, but that had to come from within. How? I was frightened to death because work defined me. Yes, you'd say I smile. Yes, you'd say I'm chipper. Yes, you had all these nicknames for me. But at the end of the day, I defined myself, and work defined me. All by work. So I knew I had to change. I knew I had to grab a wheel. I just didn't know which one. And that's what it felt like to me. When I picked these images for today, I picked images that stuck with me. It was really scary for me. I had to step back and I had to begin to reflect. And just like the little kid in the picture, I just grabbed one. I'm being honest with you. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I didn't know what it was steering, but I grabbed one. And when I grabbed the wheel, it was calming for me. I felt like I was going somewhere. I wasn't quite sure yet where I was headed, but I knew I was going somewhere. And what it caused me to start to think about, and this was eye-opening for me, I was starting to change my life not from what I was, but I started to talk about who I wanted to be. What kind of father, what kind of husband, what kind of employee, what kind of community member, what kind of teammate. I started to be inspired by a sense of purpose about what I could become. And just like a butterfly, I started to feel this is going to be a journey for me. This is going to be a transformation. What's it going to feel like? How's it going to work? I'm 20-some years into it now. I'm not sure what I'm about to show you is perfection. But I'm going to tell you it worked for me. And I have a very, very blessed life integrated with my kids and my family. So let me take a second and describe that process to you. First of all, I labeled it. So I told you earlier I have a blog. The blog's committed not to work, not to our products, but to how you can learn to lead through life. That life's the best teacher. That's the way you can go on this journey. I call it the personalized journey for growth because I built a program called Managing Yourself and Your Career for Villanova students because I wanted to test it out. I created the compass because I know when you begin the journey, you're going to feel lost. You're not going to have Google Maps with you. The compass, when I talk about it, I just say, remember, the compass has 3 parts to it. Your career, your community, and your family. They may shift in their materiality for you at certain points, but they've always got to be present. So then you say, step 1, self-awareness. What's the trick, or what have I found out is the trick in self-awareness and leading to integration? The trick is honesty. Who are you? And who do you want to be? Don't hide behind BS. Own it. Just say, no, this is who I am, this is what I want to be. And don't be afraid of it. If you value wealth, say it. Because when I was 21 and I looked in the mirror after my father died, there was only one person standing there. It was me. I had to answer to myself. It's the same thing when you talk about awareness. We're talking about self-awareness. And I know there are going to be some people in this room that say, oh, that feels selfish. It should. This is your journey. We're going to have time on this chart to talk about the others in your journey, but you got to be true to yourself first. Because if you're not, then you'll constantly have this sort of pinging at you, this guilt that goes with it, and that will be dangerous. You'll move from self-awareness to purpose and goals. I didn't have that. When I was in my 20s, I had a goal. Survive, make money, earn a living, promote my career. What happened after my wife said that is, no. I started to talk about who I wanted to be. Almost that idea of who do you want to be when you grow up. I had some guide that put some sense to the goals. It was something deeper than a tangible outcome. It was something deeper than 6-month goal or 12-month goals. It was a destiny. I'm a big believer, though, that goals are important. They'll let you know how you're doing. They'll give you some confidence that you're on the right journey, as long as those goals are integrated. What are your goals of your family? What are your goals of your community? And what are the goals of your career? This is the most important. Trust. Who do you trust? Relationships are such an enabler if you trust them. They'll be the biggest constraint to this journey if you don't. And those relationships need to be multifaceted. They need to come from your family. They need to come from your community. They need to come from work. You can trust people at work. If you're a leader, you can build that sense of trust. You can do that in your community, at the Little League, at the softball field. I taught myself field hockey for my girls. You can do it. You can build the trust. But without the trust, it'll be the single biggest constraint to integrating your life. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to second guess yourself. This is my favorite. I tell my kids this all the time. Allen Iverson doesn't like it, but a lot of other people do. Practice. You've got to practice. That's the beauty of it. It's muscle memory. Life is a big practice field. If you approach the days of your life with that attitude, it can't go that bad. Yes, you can have bad days, but if you say, no, no, this is a dress rehearsal. I'm practicing. I'm engaging in the practice. And think about that kid with the ice cream cone. That's what I want in your head when you're thinking about practice. Don't think about how you're going to look, how your neighbor's going to feel, what someone might say about you. Just engage in the practice, but do it sincerely. Do it with the effort you would as if you were that little kid trying to make the baseball team. And then measurement. Because I want you to constantly reflect, because life's a journey. It is. You can't put an end to it. Someone else does that for you. You've got to appreciate it as a lifelong journey and just continue to measure it. The last thing I want to say and leave you with as I close here is, if you have a dog, then you get this picture. There's nothing better than that feeling. Enjoy this journey, and thank you for your time and attention.